So welcome everybody to this webinar. Thanks for being here. Really looking forward to the conversation between Gabriela and Gina. And I think that will be a conversation, and at some point you'll be welcomed in, I imagine, to share your reflections, ask any questions you might have. So yeah, I'm Katie of Amity, and alongside Maria and Gabriela, we host the Thriving Together group on Facebook, through which we are sharing these webinars. And yeah, we tend to have, it varies really how we run the sessions in terms of Zoom protocols. So there's a fair few of us here tonight. So what can be really helpful is that if you're not speaking, to put yourself on mute, and we'll probably have a few of those, oh, you're on mute, so there may be some stop starting as a result of that. But one thing that can help with that is that if you do want to ask a question or say something, to raise your hand, either physically, or there's a little, there is a little Zoom hand. So if you click on the participant button, is that right? Mm-hmm. Click on the participant button, you'll see a list of all the people that are with us. And I will click the raise hand button on the left there, and you ought to see a little blue hands come up next to my name if you were following what I was doing. And that tells Maria, Gabriela and I that you'd like to say something. So at least one of us will invite you into the conversation at some point. And there may be a queue of hands, there may not. So there's two ways to let us know you'd like to say something, but otherwise please do stay on mute and relax and enjoy the evening. It's we should be here for about an hour until 7 p.m. UK time. Yeah, so Maria and I are in the UK in Manchester. And I don't know what time that is in everybody else's part of the world, I'm afraid. But I think that covers 10 o'clock in California. Thank you, Pam.
And 12 in Mexico City. So
12 in Mexico City.
Well, thank you, Katie. So if you have any questions too, you can, like technical questions, maybe Maria, would you be willing to answer technical questions through chat?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you. Great. Well, let's get into it. So I'm so excited to present to you Gina Luberto. Gina and I have known each other since about 2004. And we met because our husbands were neighbors for many years when they had little kids and the whole thing. And we were preparing for this. And we remember that we met at a Harley Davidson kind of ride along. So, you know, she was all leather up and, you know, she's quite a lady, let me tell you. And I think Gina and I hit it off right away. There are some things that we have in common that just made us like this, just like little souls that were like, oh, okay. Gina and I love to eat. That's one of the things that Gina and I love to do. We're quite adventurous. You know, we've traveled together. Yes. We scuba dive together. We like to be very independent. Neither of us have children. Both of us are married to men that have children and actually grandchildren. So I always enjoy being with her. It's always just a treat to be with her and to connect with her. And I'm so happy that she accepted to be with us today. So I'll tell you what I know about Gina. So Gina actually comes from a farming family, right? 3 generations of your family have been farmers, Gina, in the San Joaquin Valley, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
She was saying that she was raised very country. Can you hear us okay, Gina?
Yes. Very far from the city. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Great.
very country.
What does that mean, very country? Because maybe some of us don't know what that means.
So, not like people that live in the town, they walk their kids to school or they drop them off. I rode a bus every morning. my bus ride was 45 minutes to an hour to get to school type thing. We didn't have neighbors close by. You had to be very self-sufficient. We lived on a ranch of 20 acres. The person around us was 10 miles away. So very country. So if you didn't have something, it's because you didn't grow it on your farm and you had to go into town to a grocery store. So different lifestyle where you support yourself, and kind of your neighbors, you know, come in once in a while as well. Everybody is in each other's business type thing. Very country. That's kind of my meaning behind it. It's not city people are different. What can I say? They're used to having all the comforts at home at, you know, at a finger's reach, where we didn't.
Right, and I come from Mexico City, so I was the city person, where I was like, how do apples grow? They grow in the grocery store. That's how they grow. So there you have it. And so one of the reasons, well, the reason why I invited Gina to come along is because I have been watching her for the past 6-7 years. In the description of this webinar, it says that Gina's husband had an accident, and it was a life-changing event. I think for Mike, certainly for Gina as well, and I think for many of us around them. But I have been in awe at her grace and her gentleness and her determination. And so I just wanted to share her with you. And so let's take this journey together. Tell us about how you met Mike, when you met Mike. Just tell us a little bit about the beginning of your relationship.
So I was with a girlfriend, and we went camping, just a place Southern California called Pismo Beach. And if you didn't have a reservation, you kind of wanted to find a family or something to camp with. So we came across Mike and his family, which was his children and some local friends that he would camp with. And we hit it off. You know, we ended up staying with him the whole weekend we were there, because he loves to cook, and of course I love to eat. So we met that way, and then eventually hooked up a couple weeks later, because I had left my grandpa's camping lantern, and everybody says, oh, I did it on purpose, but I really didn't. It was innocent enough. And he came out from the San Jose area to where I lived, which was in the San Joaquin Valley, which is a pretty good haul. It's about 2.5 hours. And he sat with me in my backyard for hours just talking. And that's when I knew a man, one that could talk for that long. And then to find out you had so much in common, a lot of outdoors things, starting with camping. Not everybody can do the camping. And I was into motorcycles and ATVs and concerts and music. And that's kind of where you find that, that hum, which I had talked to Gabby about. You find the hum, it's what makes you happy, you know, inside. So that's kind of our journey. We dated for probably 5 years before we got engaged, and started doing a lot of camping where it was centered around ATVing and skiing and hiking and biking. And then we started scuba diving together. So we are a very active couple. Made us such a great couple because we had so many common interests together. And then I want to say back in 2014, we were on a camping trip, and Mike had an accident, which is hard to talk about, but it kind of disrupted the flow that we had, the things that we could do before we can't do anymore. He was paralyzed during an accident, pardon me, but yeah, he was paralyzed during an accident, and we've been going through the medical journey of trying to get him back up to where he was, not just emotionally, but mentally. And as a couple, you're kind of joined at the hip. It's a journey you take together. And you have to kind of keep your positivity through the journey that he's going through, along with keeping yourself up there, you know, keeping the flow, keeping the positivity. Because if you're not at your best, so going from completely active to kind of a standstill, we went through almost 4 years of what they call recovery. So the accident he had is he broke his neck and he's paralyzed. So we went from what we call the normal upright position to a sitting position. So that meant biking changed. We couldn't do any more hiking. We can still do the swimming, you know, things like that. So it was a challenge. It was a challenge for me because I saw what my life was going to be like, my journey, how I wanted to take my journey through life, with a companion, my husband, doing certain things, and it all changed. But I was very determined that my journey in this lifetime was not going to change. We were going to make sure that everything we wanted to do, we were going to keep and continue. And as hard as that sounds, you have to keep going. You have to look for that rhythm that you had before, or that I call an internal hum that makes you happy. And I find it. I help push him along so that we can stay on that journey together. And it's actually been very rewarding for me, because I see the happiness that it brings to him, which internally brings me to that peace that everyone looks for. I look for it because that's what keeps me going on our journey, is that inner peace, that hum. Because without that hum, what's the purpose of living, right? So yeah, it's been a complicated journey, but I enjoy it. I really do. There are days that we have good days and bad days, just like everybody out there. And some of our bad days, you just have to stand back and laugh. You have to laugh at yourself. You have to laugh at the situation. And in the end, it brings you back to that peace. It's like, you know, you can't take things so serious that it's like the end of the world. You focus on the positivity. You find that part of life that makes you smile. Even if it's something so small as ice cream, you know, grabbing a spoonful of ice cream out of the freezer for that moment. You have to find that what makes you happy. And I found what makes me happy. It's staying on my journey the way I want to take my life, to go on that journey through life. And Gabby has been there to see it. And from the outside looking in, it looks challenging. You know, you wonder, well, how do you do it? Well, you do it because you've got a path in this lifetime that you want to take. And I'm bound and determined to do it. I'm not giving up. And that's kind of my story. So.
Thank you. It's interesting, you know, it's interesting to see Mike and Gina, and it's interesting to see Gina because they are very active. Even with Mike not being able to walk, out of the current state of quarantine, you know, he's swimming 3 times a week. He goes skiing. He has like this bike that he can do. So he's continuously in activity. So sometimes Will and I say, oh my gosh, Mike does more in one day than we do in a week, right? So there is this tremendous amount of activity. Which is true, right? But what I love, Gina, is, you know, if we could just focus on you a little bit, because, you know, I think, of course, everything changed. Well, I don't know if everything changed, but the most fundamental part of your partnership didn't change. that didn't change, right? I mean, just the love and this sense of companionship that you and I were talking about.
Yeah.
That has stayed with you and Mike. But tell me a little bit about that, because we talked about how important it was for you to have that companionship within your marriage.
It's huge because a lot of relationships, they start out with the lust and the excitement and the adventure. And after that dies off, especially we've been married 21 years. So it's a long journey that we take. And I've gone through his divorce, having stepchildren, changing the way I approach life, because it's not just me and him, we also have other, family members involved in our journey, grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So I work towards keeping him active, and which keeps me active and keeps me happy. And I lost your question. What did you ask?
But it was a beautiful answer. But the question, it's a good answer. Good answer. Hold on.
I got a little sidetracked, sorry.
Fine, that's fine. So, well, my question was this idea of companionship, right? Because you have been there with Mike through this particular journey. I mean, you have been right there, So I guess what I'm asking you, Gina, is what has allowed you to be so present with Mike and this journey? There's something in you that I'm just like, wow, she's just so present with him all the time. So I'm just wondering, what's that in you that has allowed you to be with him? Go ahead.
I think it's the determination. I mean, as you grow up and go through life, you look for that ultimate companion that you fall in love with, of course, but you have so many things in common to do. You don't want to just give up because you've got this obstacle in the way. I mean, that says right off the bat that you don't have a good relationship with your companion, right? You take your vows that, through death do us part, through the good, through the bad, and I'm living through the bad. But I'm determined that this is my companion. I want to make sure that we stay compatible. So I look for the things that we used to do, that we can still do, but change them ever so slightly. And it builds a bond in the companionship that your trust is unlimited. You trust that other person with your life and vice versa. And that's how I look at it for him. I mean, he's limited in what he can do, but mentally and emotionally, he's the best companion, because we're there to support each other and survive through this, because I'm not looking to find another companion, to be honest. I worked hard on this relationship, and that's what keeps me going, because this relationship, I mean, it's probably the best one that I've ever encountered. I don't see too many other people with relationships like ours. It's just very rare. And seeing him smile and see that he can still do these things and still live happy with the obstacle that was set in front of him makes me happy in turn. So our grown, gotten stronger, because we both learned, we can do new things. I mean, just taking what we used to go downhill skiing, we can still do that together. He's got a little bit different ski setup. We can still do scuba diving together. So it's still maintaining that companionship, maintaining that good relationship. So you may miss out on a few things, but I think the most important is some personal time and keep yourself. Look at yourself and say, hey, I gotta ground myself, get back in the moment, and stop dreaming or thinking about the past or the negative things that, I mean, every relationship, you come up with a negative thought. Every negative thought, you've got to come up with 2 or 3 positive thoughts. And with mine and my husband's situation, bringing up the positive thoughts, you know, laughing at the stupid things that happen, that's what strengthens us. It keeps me going. I love it. I love the challenge, to be honest. I look at my situation in our relationship and I'm like, we're not going to fail. We're going to keep going. Because there's so many things that point and say you'll never make it. And I'm like, we're going to make it. Are you kidding me? This is a challenge and I love it. So yeah, it's about compatibility and companionship. It's the strength that you have.
You know, you just talked about something that I think is just so essential, which is like staying where you are in this moment, right? In this relationship. Like what's happened has already happened, but just being present with him and present with you. Of course, Gina, Mike, and some of our friends, and Will and I, we went to Mexico and we went to the pyramids and we went swimming. And so there was this, it was just like, it was amazing, Gina, to see you kind of, what you just said, this idea of we are going to make it. It's just finding out how and just being really present in the moment every day, every day. So that was really obvious. I think you talked about something really important. You talked about looking at yourself and staying grounded. And when we were talking, you were saying, you know, finding this hum in you, right? The hum that helps you have peace and it helps you have joy. And so I'm just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about this hum.
Yeah. So as an individual, you have feelings, depending upon what the environment around you is. I always relate it back to yoga. They always tell you, okay, ground yourself, you know, find center, get rid of all the external around you, find that peace of mind. That's kind of what I think my internal hum is finding where everything around you just kind of slowly disappears. Sometimes it's with music, sometimes it's just sitting in the middle of the grass. It's where your soul just kind of is relaxed at a state where it doesn't matter what's around you, you just peaceful. You just feel like you're the only one on the planet. It's just, everybody reaches for it. You're reaching for the ultimate happiness. But if you can find it within yourself, your hum, where it's not related to another person, it's more of being happy with yourself, centering yourself to the point where you just kind of, I don't know how to describe it, you just feel efficient, fully sufficient. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of hard to explain, but it's the inner hum. It's the happiness. It's the peacefulness where you step on the edge of the Grand Canyon and there's just this emotion that comes over you where it's just like, it's the aha moment. And that's the hum. If you have to find the hum, and I find the hum. I find certain things that make my inner peace just hum. Everybody's born with it. It's up to you to find what makes you hum. Found it.
So how has this state and, you know, what you just described, how has that been helpful to you in this journey?
Oh, it's something where you feel like you're getting a little out of control in life, where you have too many things on the calendar. There's not enough time to do certain things in the day. And you kind of have to go back to basics. And I find it by not just maybe some meditation or some good music or sitting in the backyard, just enjoying the breeze, the sun, whatever's around you. Getting back to finding that hum is what centers you, grounds you, so that you can go on and get back into the jumble and all the messages and the things that are going on in your life. Your mind from going crazy.
So Gina, has that peace of mind, that state of mind that you're describing, do you think that has been helpful to you in this journey with Mike in the latest stage of your relationship?
Yes, because if I didn't have it, I would be going crazy. I would be depressed, and it would look like it was a gloomy outcome, that we could never keep our companionship going the way it is. But by finding, I literally find my hum every morning in order to ground myself and get ready and prepared for what the days come, because it's different every day. You get hit with the challenges, and it's like, I find that by grounding myself, finding that peace of mind, that happiness in the morning with myself, I know that everything will be okay.
Okay. Oh, thank you. I would like to open, is there anything else you want to say? Because I would like to open up the mics for anyone that would like to share something or make a question or a comment, but I'm wondering if there's anything else that you would like to share.
No, I'm ready for the questions.
You're ready for the questions or comments? Perfect. Alrighty.
Yep.
Well, Trevor.
Yes, Gina, how was your inner hum before Mike's accident? Has it become stronger, or has it always been steady like that, something you've always been aware of, or has it grown since Mike's accident, do you think?
To be honest, I wasn't really aware of my hum until the accident, until I was put under the pressures of the change in the relationship and what we could and couldn't do. That's when I would find something would happen and my hum would start. And that's when I started identifying. I'm like, okay, if I could find my hum in every bad situation that comes up, it made me cope with what I was going through, what I was dealing with Mike's accident, and this extra that it existed in the first place. Because we kind of motor along through life just doing and not taking the time to center ourselves and find that we are a being that we need to self-maintain, right? And when I was exposed to my inner hum, I mean, it's just kind of like an answer to everything. Anytime anything got out of whack, I would look to ground myself, find my hum, and then I just motored right along. You know, it made it so much easier, so much easier. And honestly, I find myself happier. It's the accident might have happened, and yeah, we would have lived a whole different life, but I'm enjoying my journey now. I really am, now that I found my hum. I really enjoy it. Don't tell him that, but yes, I enjoy it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I spend most of my days now helping people find their inner hum. I don't actually call it that, but I believe it's, we've lost contact with our souls, and we get so wound up in our own personal life and that, and to actually reconnect with our soul, which is similar to your inner hum, then that has all the answers when you can connect to source again like that, and that source can then flow through to you. And that's lovely. And it's interesting that you weren't that aware of it too much until the accident, and then when you needed it, it was there, broke through, and it came through. I think it's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
Thank you, Trevor.
Thank you.
Anybody else would like to make a comment, a question? I'm going to put Maria on the spot. Hi, Maria Mayor. You have a comment or a question?
I love Trevor's question. And I wonder if there's something else you could say about, Gina, about what that makes possible for you and the relationship. What grounding yourself in that inner hum allows for the relationship.
It gives me more strength. It gives me a peace of mind that I can use as a pillar to keep going. The hum has made me so much stronger as a person that I feel that we can go through more changes if we need be. And I know that I can reach back and rely on that hum to get, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Oh, hi, Trevor.
Sorry?
It's like we see you.
What? Sorry, what's going on? Sorry. Something just came up on my computer.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't sure
Oh,
what
I
it was.
thought you had another question for me. That was such a great one.
I'm interested. My whole life these days reverberates around the hum, your hum, because so many people, they don't have access to it. Some people are not aware of it at all. Everybody has this part of them inside. And it can give you, as you said, when you were answering Maria's question, the word that came to my mind was exactly the same word that you came out with first, which was strength. It gives you that strength, and it boosts everything in your life once you're connected to this source, this hum, or whatever you want to call it. And I just wish, well, I'm trying as best I can, but I just wish everybody could get contact with that, because whatever problems they have in their lives, whatever they may be, and we've heard your story today and that, but whatever problems you've got in the world, when you're connected to this hum, it can come through and it can sort it out. It makes it seem like it has with you, that it's not a problem. You've actually said you've been happier,
Yeah.
with the accent and
Sorry. Yeah, it brings you a kind of peace.
Yeah.
Once you do find it. And I think for some people, they need to hit that turning point in their life where it becomes it pops up and it becomes a reality for them. And then they go, oh, the aha moment.
Yeah.
Where you go,
yeah.
that's what it feels like. The hum or the peacefulness. And I wish everybody like you could find it. And sometimes it takes an extreme change in their life to do that. I do. I commit you for wanting to help people find that peacefulness.
To try and help them find it before they have that big jolt in their life. Be it a near-death experience, a chronic illness, something that turns your whole life around completely. And you see things from a completely different perspective. And that somehow gives room for the wisdom and the well-being to come through from source there. So yeah, it's trying to help people reach that point before they have to reach that horrible tipping point. So yeah, I'm so pleased that you have that, because as you've already said, life would be so difficult without that. It's probably hard to imagine how you'd cope. Yeah,
I mean, without it, it would be like being on a sinking ship, honestly. And now that I found it, anything's possible. It really is. Anything is possible. The whole world's out there for me now.
universe. The whole universe is out there.
Yeah, the universe. That's a big one.
Yeah, it's there though. It's backing you up. It really
Yes,
is.
it is. It is.
Thank you, Trevor. Suzanne, you have a question?
I have a comment, which is not really a question, but it can turn into a question. I loved your story, Gina. I found it very inspiring. And like Trevor, I spend a fair amount of time trying to help people find their inner hum. But the conclusion that I've arrived at, even though I haven't been doing this for very long, is that it actually takes a smack upside the head on the part of life, for the most part, for people to really find it. Very few people can settle into it, step out of their thinking, and just be until something brings them up short, be it a catastrophic illness, any number of things. So I guess the question is it really possible to fully inhabit one's inner hum without adversity? In fact, there's that Latin locution, per ardua ad astra, through adversity to the stars. Can we even go there without having something pretty major happen? That's the question.
I think society sets us up to go 100 miles an hour, that we don't get that moment to take care of ourselves. And unless you have a big change in your life, I think certain personalities will never come across it until there is something drastic that happens. And for the other set of people, that there has to be something missing, maybe an unhappiness, where it forces them to look for it. And because they're not aware of it. I think a lot of people go through this lifetime and they're just not aware that there is more. There's a possibility out there to be at peace without having something traumatic happen to them. And a lot of them need to look for that peace. And I think society has trained us that we don't need to. You know, it's just going to come to us naturally. And it's like, sometimes you have to look for it. You have to look for that peace. And once you find it, it's easy after that. It really is.
I agree. It's just that I do watch some clients just go round and round and round and round with an intellectual grasp of what we're discussing here. And yet it never actually sinks to the point where they are at peace, or they get a glimmer of peace, and then they leap onto the hamster wheel of their thinking. They just don't go back to it. They leap onto it.
Oh my God. Maybe it almost sounds like they're afraid to be happy. You know, that peacefulness is so much they can't bear it. You know, they like the chaos and the being on the hamster wheel.
That's the conclusion that I'm coming to, because I do have a couple of clients where, I mean, we've been going around for months now and we have not really made any progress. And yet I know that what we're doing in sharing this understanding is just planting seeds, something that will germinate when the catastrophic event happens, if not before. So anyway, I'm just delighted to hear your story. It's very inspiring, because I know that when faced with some major life stuff, have tended to wallow in despair. And it took me a long time. It took me a long time to realize that I didn't have to go through it that way, that I could go through things. I could go through major stuff perfectly happily. No big deal. And that's a gift when one can have that.
I think one more statement I have is, when you're focusing on yourself, it doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you're taking care of yourself. And one of the things that did happen is my husband was in the hospital for 6 months. So I had a lot of alone time. And I found hiking was kind of my adventure out. And that's the first time I came across my hum, because it was just being in the outdoors and not having any outside influence, any noise. I call it noise. No noise to disrupt that. And I think some people need that. Some of them need to be dropped on an island, I think. For some of your clients, drop them on an island and they won't have a whole lot to think about, right? So
that's our solution.
put them on an island somewhere.
You know, is there any other comment? Is there any other? I just wanted to say this, and then anybody else could comment. But it's so wonderful to hear, because Gina doesn't know anything about the principles. You know, she's never come to any of my trainings. I don't think she's ever read or anything, right? So that's exactly what I wanted her to be part of this, because when I was listening to her, I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, it's wonderful that human beings are able to discover something even if they've never gone to a 3 principles training, right? I mean, you can hear her talk about how you can have peace of mind regardless, really, of the outside world. Mm-hmm. So I just think, wow, that is it's so wonderful, because it's moving us in the direction of really looking inward, right, for that peace of mind and that well-being and that sense of possibility. So I just wanted to mention that, Gina. Betty, you have a question? We need to turn your mic on.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I just wanted to acknowledge Gina and her journey, and thank you for sharing your very private world with us. And I really appreciate it. I think what you are displaying for us right now is adult resiliency. You know, you just have connected to this ability to bounce back. And I love what you said, you know, about staying grounded and being present and connecting to that part of yourself where the hum is created. I didn't know until I met Gabriela and got exposed to the principles that I had a choice in what I thought about. I just thought showed up and you had to like act it out and live through it. And when I learned that I could choose whether to think a thought and carry it out or not, I gained so much freedom in my life. It changed my whole life. So I just wanted to acknowledge you and say thank you. And I wish people could be exposed to this without going through the crisis that you went through. They say, I think there's like 80 million people in the United States that are depressed, that walk through life with depression on a daily basis. And that's a lot of suffering. So if you can tell your story more and more, I think that would be great.
Well, we're going to put it on YouTube and we're going to make it public. Boy, oh boy. Thank you, Betty.
Well, thanks for listening to my story. It feels good to talk about it. It really does, to expose it and to hear myself talk about it. That, yeah, I am a little resilient. I have someone who tells me that all the time.
Yeah. Any other comments?
Pam has her hand up.
Oh, Pammy. Go on, darling.
Hi, Gina. Nice
Hello.
to see you.
Oh, hi, Pam.
I just wanted to say something. Of course, I always have something to say. Whether it's worth anything or not is the question. So when the statement came out that from Suzanne about adversity maybe needing to be the catalyst to finding this peace of mind or state of mind that you're talking about calling the hum, I thought about my own experience learning the 3 principles 20 some years ago. And it had an immediate impact on me, and I wasn't in any crisis. The whole, just the first time I heard about state of minds and how we all have access to higher state of minds pointed me in the direction of getting curious as to how I could get there and maintain that. And I wasn't coming from, I mean, I had a history, I had a whole decade of severe depression. I can remember being depressed from the age of 5. And then my 30s got really horrific with an addictive relationship. But I never had hope in those years because psychiatrists and psychologists and people would tell me, I'm depressed and I'm always going to be depressed and I need to be on meds. So I had no hope. And then I went to this core course that Sid Banks was at. No, not Sid Banks, Roger Mills. Roger Mills had brought it to Santa Clara County, and I was working for the county and in a rehab center for women. And he said something that blew my mind. And he said, nothing can ever hurt you. And that was like getting struck with lightning. What do you mean? Of course I thought, of course murder's going to hurt me, or somebody attacks me with a knife that's going to hurt me, but that isn't what he meant. And I did see it at the level he meant, which was too deep to talk about in this conversation right now. But it immediately infused me with hope. And then of course they started talking about peace of mind. And I was like, wow, I never thought about my peace of mind before. And yes, I do have peace of mind. I have peace of mind every time I do something I love, like reading a good book or talking on the phone with girlfriends, or, you know, lots of people have lots of hobbies. And when I would teach in the jail, I would say, what makes you happy? And then, you know, we would talk around this hum, you're calling it, which is a very cute way to say that, by the way. I think that'll resonate with a lot of people to hear that word. So I hope you get lots of viewers. But I did want to say that in response to Suzanne, because if you can tell them in a way that they see that gives them hope, they'll find it automatically, I think. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Well, Gina Luberto, thank you so much for being willing to share your hum with us. I love that too. I love the inner hum. I was like, I'm going to steal it from her. But
I think everybody needs to hum at the end, Gabby.
I already
but you know, I just love that you shared your experience, your understanding with us, Gina. Thank you so much for your generosity of heart and time. We will make this public on our page. And I don't know if there's anything else you want to say in closing.
Oh, I wish everybody could find their inner peace, which I call the inner hum, because it makes this life's journey for you much easier and definitely happier. I think that'll be my final statement.
Great. Well, thank you. Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching this, and we'll see you next time. Alrighty. Take care, you guys.
Thank you, Gabby, Maria, Katie, for bringing this.
Thank you. Thank you, Gina.
Ciao.
Ciao.
You're welcome. I enjoyed it. Bye-bye.